Black CEO humiliated at airport. Minutes later, she boarded her $22 billion private jet. The fluorescent lights of Chicago O'Hare International Airport buzzed overhead as Dr. Maya Richardson stood at Gate 47, her worn leather briefcase clutched against her chest. She had been standing for 47 minutes watching passenger after passenger board the delayed flight to Atlanta, while she remained invisible to the gate agent. "Excuse me," Maya said for the third time, her voice steady despite the exhaustion pulling at her bones. "I believe there's been a mistake with my boarding pass." The gate agent, a woman named Karen Phillips according to her name tag, didn't look up from her computer screen. Her blonde hair was pulled back so tightly it seemed to stretch her face into a permanent expression of disdain. "Ma'am, I told you already. Wait until I call your group." "But I'm in Group 1, first class." "The screen shows—" "I can read the screen." Karen's eyes finally lifted, scanning Maya from head to toe with unconcealed judgment. Maya was acutely aware of how she must look after 36 hours without sleep. Her natural hair pulled into a simple bun, her $20 department store blouse wrinkled from the hospital chair she'd spent the night in, her eyes red from tears she'd shed in private. Behind Maya, a man in an expensive suit cleared his throat impatiently. "Can we move this along? Some of us actually have first-class tickets." Maya turned. The man was in his 50s with silver hair and the kind of tan that came from yacht clubs, not work sites. His eyes dismissed her before she could even speak. "Sir, I do have a first-class ticket. I'm just trying to—" "Sure you do." He smirked, glancing at Karen for validation. "Let me guess you won it in some diversity lottery?" The words hit Maya like physical blows, but she had spent 53 years learning to absorb them without flinching. She straightened her spine, drawing on reserves of dignity that her grandmother had taught her to keep locked deep inside for moments exactly like this. "Actually, I purchased it with my own money." The man laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that drew the attention of other passengers. "Right. Look, sweetheart, we all know what's going on here. You probably bought a basic economy ticket and now you're trying to scam your way into first class." "It's okay, Karen. I see this all the time. They think if they make enough noise, complain about racism, someone will just upgrade them to shut them up. Before we continue this incredible story, subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Your support helps us share more stories of hope, dignity, and second chances." Maya's hands trembled, but not from fear, from rage, from exhaustion, from the accumulated weight of 1,000 similar moments spanning 5 decades. Karen nodded sympathetically at the man. "Sir, I apologize for the inconvenience. Let me get you boarded immediately." She printed his boarding pass without even checking his documents. "Mr. Harrison, you're all set. Right this way." "Wait," Maya interjected, her voice rising despite her best efforts to remain calm. "You didn't even verify his ticket. I've been standing here for almost an hour and you won't even look at mine. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step aside or I'll have to call security." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Around them, passengers had stopped pretending not to watch. Some filmed on their phones, others whispered behind their hands. A few looked away, unable or unwilling to intervene. Maya had been in positions of power for so long that she'd almost forgotten what it felt like to be utterly powerless. Almost. But memory has a way of staying fresh when it's born from wounds that never fully heal. "I just want to show you my ticket," Maya said quietly, reaching into her purse. "Keep your hands where I can see them." Karen's voice shot up an octave and suddenly a security guard appeared, as if he'd been waiting in the wings for exactly this moment. "Is there a problem here?" The guard, a young man with nervous eyes, positioned himself between Maya and the gate. "This woman is disrupting the boarding process and refusing to comply with airline personnel instructions," Karen announced, her voice now loud enough to ensure everyone within 3 gates could hear. Maya felt something crack inside her chest. Not her spirit. That had been forged in fires hot enough to make diamonds. But her faith, perhaps. Her hope that things had changed. Her belief that her accomplishments, her education, her contributions to the world meant something beyond the color of her skin. "I'm not disrupting anything," Maya said, her voice steady even as her world tilted. "I have a first-class ticket. I've been trying to board for an hour. That man," she gestured to Harrison, who was now comfortably watching the scene from the jetway, "was processed immediately without verification. I'm simply asking for the same treatment." The security guard looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, if you have a valid ticket, there shouldn't be a problem. Can I see it?" Finally, someone willing to look. Maya reached into her purse with careful, deliberate movements, the kind that black people learn to make around authority figures, and pulled out her boarding pass. The guard studied it, his frown deepening. "This is a first-class ticket. Gate 47. That's this gate." "I tried to tell her," Maya said softly. Karen snatched the boarding pass from the guard's hand, her face flushing red as she examined it. For a moment, something like recognition flickered across her features, followed quickly by defiance. "This could be fake," she announced. "These days, anyone can print anything. I'm going to need to verify this with my supervisor." "Your supervisor?" Maya's exhaustion was transforming into something else now, something harder. "You didn't need a supervisor for Mr. Harrison." "Mr. Harrison is a Platinum Elite member. I recognize him. I don't recognize you." The words were carefully chosen to avoid explicit racism while landing every punch. Maya had heard variations of this speech her entire life. "I don't recognize you. You don't belong here. People like you." A woman in her 30s, sitting nearby with a laptop open, suddenly stood up. "Excuse me, but this is ridiculous. I've been watching this entire interaction, and it's clear discrimination." "Ma'am, please stay out of airline business," Karen snapped. "I'm an attorney," the woman replied, her voice firm, "and I'm documenting this." Karen's eyes narrowed, but before she could respond, her radio crackled. A voice came through, professional and clipped. "Karen, we have a situation at Gate 52. Need you there immediately." Karen looked between Maya and her radio, clearly torn between her desire to continue the confrontation and her obligation to respond. Finally, she thrust the boarding pass back at Maya. "Fine. Board. But I'm filing a report about your disruptive behavior." Maya took her boarding pass with shaking hands. The small victory felt hollow, purchased at the cost of her dignity, witnessed by dozens who would go home with a story about that difficult woman at the airport. As she walked down the jetway, she heard Harrison's voice behind her. "Unbelievable. They let anyone in first class these days." Maya didn't turn around. She couldn't. Because if she turned around, if she let herself feel the full weight of what had just happened, she might crumble. And she had learned long ago that black women don't get to crumble in public. They don't get to be tired, or angry, or broken. They only get to be strong. The flight attendant at the aircraft door smiled professionally. "Welcome aboard, ma'am. May I see your boarding pass?" Maya handed it over, bracing herself for another interrogation. But the attendant simply scanned it and gestured toward the front of the plane. "1A, first row window seat. Can I help you with your bag?" The simple courtesy, the basic respect, nearly undid her. "No, thank you. I can manage." Seat 1A was everything the ticket promised. Leather, spacious, private. Maya sank into it and closed her eyes, letting herself feel, just for a moment, the accumulated exhaustion of not just the last 36 hours, but the last 53 years. She had left her mother's bedside at Northwestern Memorial Hospital to make this flight. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. The doctors had given her weeks, maybe days. Maya had held her mother's hand through the night, listening to labored breathing and remembering all the times her mother had held her hand through the storms of life. "Baby," her mother had whispered that morning, her voice thin as tissue paper. "You go. You go do what you gotta do. Make me proud. Mama, I'm already proud of you. Let me stay." "No." Her mother's grip had surprising strength. "You got that meeting. That important meeting. The one that's gonna change everything. You go. I'll still be here when you get back. I promise." That had been the lie that let Maya leave. The gentle fiction they both needed. The meeting in Atlanta was with the Federal Aviation Administration. After 7 years of development, countless obstacles and investment of her entire fortune, Maya's company was finally ready to unveil the future of aviation. Electric aircraft that would revolutionize regional travel while reducing carbon emissions by 90%. Tomorrow, if all went well, Maya Richardson would sign the contracts that would make her technology the standard for the next generation of American aircraft. Her company, Richardson Aerospace, would go from a small research firm to a major player overnight. But right now, sitting in seat 1A with her eyes closed against tears, she just felt small. "Excuse me, is this 1B? Maya opened her eyes. Of course it was Harrison. Before we continue this incredible story, subscribe to our channel and leave a like. Your support helps us share more stories of hope, dignity, and second chances. Harrison settled into seat 1B with the confidence of a man who had never questioned his right to occupy space. He arranged his belongings, laptop, phone, expensive headphones, across both armrests as if Maya's presence was merely theoretical. "Small world," he said, not looking at her. His tone made it clear he didn't think it was small enough. Maya didn't respond. She turned toward the window, watching ground crew load luggage, trying to find something, anything to focus on besides the man beside her. "You know," Harrison continued, apparently unable to let silence stand, "I've been flying first class for 25 years. Platinum Elite for 15. Used to be that meant something. Used to be you knew everyone up here was, well, you knew they belonged." Maya's jaw tightened. She had spent her entire career, her entire life, proving she belonged. PhD in aerospace engineering from MIT at 26, 10 years at Boeing before striking out on her own. Patents in her name that had revolutionized aircraft efficiency. And still, to men like Harrison, she would never belong anywhere he considered his territory. "I earned my seat same as you," Maya said quietly, still not looking at him. Harrison laughed. "Sure. With a diversity scholarship, right? Or maybe your company sent you. Let me guess. HR? Community outreach?" Maya finally turned to face him. Up close, she could see the broken capillaries in his nose, the slight tremor in his hands. A drinker. Probably had been for years, using alcohol to drown whatever inadequacies he couldn't admit to himself. "I'm not interested in having this conversation with you." Touchy. Harrison smirked. "See, that's the problem. You people get so defensive when someone just asks a simple question. Makes you wonder what you're hiding." "You people." The words hung between them like smoke from a fire neither could extinguish. A flight attendant approached, an older woman with kind eyes and a name tag that read, Patricia. "Good afternoon. Can I offer you something to drink before takeoff?" "Scotch," Harrison said immediately. "Double, neat." Patricia's smile never wavered, but something flickered in her eyes. "Of course, sir, and for you, ma'am." "Water, please," Maya said. "Thank you." As Patricia walked away, Harrison leaned back in his seat. "You sure you don't want something stronger? Oh, wait, let me guess. Can't afford it? First-class drinks aren't included in those discount tickets." Maya closed her eyes and counted to 10, then 20. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. "Baby, some people are so small, they can only feel big by making others feel tiny. Don't you ever let them make you forget how tall you really stand?" But God, she was tired of standing tall, tired of being strong, tired of absorbing poison day after day, and somehow being expected to transform it into grace. Patricia returned with their drinks. As she handed Maya her water, their eyes met, and Maya saw something there. Recognition, perhaps. Empathy, certainly. "Ma'am," Patricia said softly, "I want you to know, I saw what happened at the gate. That wasn't right." The unexpected kindness cracked something in Maya's armor. She blinked rapidly, fighting tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Harrison gulped his scotch and immediately flagged Patricia for another. She obliged without comment, her professionalism a shield against his obvious rudeness. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Maya pulled a worn photograph from her purse. Her mother, 30 years younger, standing in front of Richardson Aerospace's original office, a converted garage in Southside Chicago. Her mother had cleaned houses for 20 years to help pay for Maya's education. Never complained, never stopped believing. Looking at old photos? Harrison glanced over, his inhibitions loosening with the alcohol. Let me guess. Welfare office? Section 8 housing? Maya carefully tucked the photo away. She would not give him the satisfaction of a response. Would not dignify his cruelty with her pain. The plane taxied to the runway, and Maya felt the familiar thrill of acceleration, the moment when physics and engineering collaborated to defy gravity. She had loved aviation since she was 7 years old, watching planes take off from the park near her childhood home, dreaming of the day she would not just fly in them, but design them. Her mother had encouraged those dreams when everyone else called them foolish. "Baby," she'd said, "the world's gonna tell you what you can't do every single day. Don't you dare start believing them." Once they reached cruising altitude, Harrison unbuckled his seatbelt and turned toward Maya with the aggressive friendliness of the intoxicated. "So what do you really do? Come on, you can tell me. I'm actually pretty liberal. I donated to the NAACP once." Maya stared at him. "Once? Well, yeah. I mean, how much are we supposed to give? You people get affirmative action, diversity quotas, all kinds of special treatment. At some point you have to stand on your own feet, right?" "I have been standing on my own feet my entire life," Maya said, her voice low and controlled. "While you were probably inheriting your father's business or connections, I was working 3 jobs to pay for college. While you were playing golf at country clubs, I was in the library at 2 a.m. finishing my dissertation. Don't you dare talk to me about standing on my own feet." Harrison's face reddened. "See? There's that attitude. I try to have a civil conversation, and you attack me. This is why people like me can't even talk to people like you anymore. People like me." Maya repeated the phrase slowly, letting its weight settle. "You mean educated people? Engineers? Business owners? Or do you just mean black people, Mr. Harrison? Because you seem to have a hard time saying what you actually mean." "I'm not racist," Harrison sputtered, loud enough that other passengers turned to look. "I have a black friend, my landscaper. We talk all the time. Great guy, works hard, doesn't have a chip on his shoulder like—" He stopped himself, but the implication hung in the air. Maya felt something shift inside her. For 53 years she had played by the rules, been twice as good to get half as far, smiled when she wanted to scream, educated when she wanted to rage, endured when she wanted to fight. But sitting at her dying mother's bedside last night, holding that fragile hand, Maya had made a promise. No more. No more shrinking. No more silence. No more protecting the feelings of people who had never once considered hers. "You want to know what I do, Mr. Harrison?" Maya turned to face him fully. "I'm the CEO of Richardson Aerospace. We design and manufacture electric aircraft. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the FAA to finalize contracts that will make my technology the standard for regional aviation across the United States." Harrison blinked, his scotch-addled brain trying to process this information. "You're a CEO?" "Founder and CEO. We hold 47 patents. Our aircraft reduce carbon emissions by 90% while cutting operational costs by 60%. Last quarter we were valued at $22 billion. The number seemed to sober Harrison instantly. 22 billion? With a B. Maya's voice was steady, but inside, her heart raced. She had never been one to flaunt her success, had always tried to stay humble, invisible even, to avoid the very confrontation she was now walking into deliberately. Harrison's face cycled through emotions, disbelief, confusion, calculation. "If that's true, why are you flying commercial? Why not a private jet?" "Because," Maya said quietly, "I believe in the technology I create. I fly commercial to understand the customer experience, to see what needs to improve, and to remind myself where I came from." She paused, then added, "But I do own a private jet, a Gulfstream G700 actually, modified with my company's electric hybrid engines. It's currently undergoing final FAA certification testing at Hartsfield-Jackson. I'll be flying home on it tomorrow after my meeting." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. Harrison stared at her as if she were a puzzle he couldn't solve, a reality that didn't fit his carefully constructed worldview. Patricia approached with a service cart. "Ms. Richardson, would you like something to eat? We have—" She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening. "Wait, Ms. Richardson? Dr. Maya Richardson?" Maya nodded, surprised. "Yes?" Patricia's entire demeanor changed. "Oh my God. My son, he's studying aerospace engineering at Georgia Tech. Your work is all he talks about. The electric propulsion systems, the carbon fiber innovations. You're his hero." "That's very kind," Maya said softly. "No, you don't understand." Patricia's eyes were suddenly bright with tears. "He's black. First in our family to go to college. Every day professors tell him he doesn't belong there, that engineering isn't for people like him. But he keeps your picture on his desk. Says if Dr. Richardson can revolutionize aviation, he can pass thermodynamics." Maya felt her own tears threatening. "What's his name?" "Marcus. Marcus Johnson." "Tell Marcus—" Maya had to pause, collecting herself. "Tell Marcus that he absolutely belongs there. Tell him Dr. Richardson says to keep going. The world needs his brilliance." Patricia nodded, unable to speak, and moved away to compose herself. Harrison had been silent through this exchange, his face now pale. You're really everything I said I am." Maya turned back to the window. "The question is, Mr. Harrison, why was that so hard for you to believe? Why did you look at me and see someone who didn't belong? Someone who must be lying or cheating or taking advantage?" Harrison opened his mouth, closed it. For perhaps the first time in his life, he had no answer that wouldn't damn him. "I've spent my entire life being doubted," Maya continued, her voice soft but carrying an edge sharp enough to cut. "By teachers who said I'd never make it. By banks that wouldn't give me loans. By investors who couldn't see past my gender or my color. By gate agents who assume I'm trying to scam my way into first class. And by men like you, Mr. Harrison, who believe they're entitled to everything while I must prove I deserve anything. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did." Maya's eyes met his, and this time he was the one who looked away. "You meant every word, every assumption, every insult. You meant it all. The only thing you didn't mean to do was get caught." The rest of the flight passed in tense silence. Harrison ordered 3 more drinks, each one making him smaller somehow, as if he were trying to disappear into his seat. Other passengers had clearly overheard the conversation. Maya felt their eyes on her, some sympathetic, some curious, some still skeptical. She didn't care anymore. She was done performing, done educating, done making herself smaller so others could feel bigger. As they began their descent into Atlanta, Patricia stopped by one more time. She slipped Maya a piece of paper with an email address. "For Marcus," she whispered. "If you ever have time." Maya took the paper and squeezed Patricia's hand. "I'll write him tonight." When they landed, Harrison bolted from his seat the moment the seatbelt sign turned off, grabbing his belongings and pushing past other passengers in his hurry to escape. Maya gathered her things slowly, with dignity, letting the crowd thin. As she stepped into the jetway, she felt lighter somehow. As if speaking her truth, naming her worth, had lifted a weight she'd been carrying so long she'd forgotten what it felt like to stand without it. But the real revelation was still to come, and it would unfold in a way that neither Harrison nor anyone else in that airport could possibly anticipate. Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport sprawled before them like a small city. Maya walked through the terminal with her head high, briefcase in hand, following the signs toward baggage claim. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from her team, updates on tomorrow's FAA meeting, a text from the hospital about her mother's stable condition. She was answering an email when she heard the commotion behind her. Dr. Richardson, wait." Maya turned to see a young black man in an airport uniform running toward her, his face bright with recognition and excitement. Behind him, several other airport employees had stopped to watch. "Dr. Richardson, I'm sorry to bother you, but—" The young man was breathless, starstruck. "I'm James. I work for the fixed base operator here. Your jet arrived this morning from the testing facility. Everything's ready for your departure tomorrow, but I had to meet you. You're a legend, ma'am. What you've done for aviation, for all of us who dreamed of being in this industry." Maya felt her eyes sting. After the degradation of the past hours, this genuine admiration felt like water in a desert. "Thank you, James. That means more than you know. Could I possibly get a photo with you? My daughter is 7. She wants to be an aerospace engineer. If I could show her." "Of course." Maya smiled, the first genuine smile since leaving her mother's hospital room. They took the photo, James beaming like he'd won the lottery. A small crowd had gathered now. Airport employees, pilots, a few travelers who recognized her from industry magazines. In this world, the world of aviation and innovation, Maya was royalty. But at the gate just hours ago, she had been invisible. The duality was exhausting. Harrison had been collecting his luggage when he noticed the crowd. Curious, he moved closer, then froze when he saw Maya at the center, graciously speaking with admirers, signing autographs on aviation magazines people pulled from their bags. "That's Dr. Maya Richardson," a pilot next to him said reverently. "She's revolutionizing the industry. That electric propulsion system of hers, it's going to change everything. They say her company's worth more than some airlines now." Harrison's face drained of color. He had been so certain, so absolutely convinced of his assumptions. The cognitive dissonance was almost physical. How could this woman, the one he'd dismissed and insulted, be the same person this crowd was treating like a dignitary? Maya caught sight of him through the crowd. Their eyes met. She saw the recognition dawn on his face, the horror, the shame. Good. Let him feel it. Let him carry that weight. "Dr. Richardson," James said, "your car's waiting outside, but if you'd like, I can arrange for a cart to take you to the executive terminal. Save you the walk." "That's very kind, James, but I'll walk. I need the air." As the crowd dispersed, Maya made her way toward the exit. She was almost through the sliding doors when a hand grabbed her arm. "Wait, please." It was Harrison. Up close, in the harsh fluorescent light of the airport, he looked older, smaller. The bravado that alcohol and entitlement had given him on the plane had evaporated, leaving behind something pitiful. "Get your hand off me," Maya said quietly, her voice steel. He released her immediately, hands up in surrender. "I'm sorry. I need to apologize." "No, you don't. Please, just let me." "You don't need to apologize to me, Mr. Harrison." Maya's voice was calm, almost gentle. "You need to apologize to yourself. For being the kind of man who measures human worth by skin color and wealth. For being so small that the only way you can feel big is by diminishing others. For wasting 50-some years of life learning nothing about empathy, dignity, or basic human decency." Harrison flinched as if struck. "I didn't know who you were. And that's exactly the problem." Maya leaned in, her voice dropping. "You think you owe me respect because I'm wealthy and successful. But you owed me respect when you thought I was nobody. You owed me respect because I'm a human being. The fact that you need my resume to see my humanity? That's not my failing, Mr. Harrison. That's yours." She turned to leave, then paused. "You asked me on the plane why I fly commercial when I own a private jet. You want to know the real reason? Because if I only traveled in my bubble of success, I might forget what most of the world is like. I might forget what it feels like to be dismissed, degraded, doubted. And if I forgot that, I'd stop fighting to change it." "I really am sorry," Harrison whispered. "I believe you are. You're sorry you were wrong. Sorry you embarrassed yourself. Sorry you revealed who you really are in front of witnesses." Maya's eyes were sad now, not angry. "But are you sorry enough to change? That's the question you need to ask yourself." She walked away, leaving him standing in the terminal, a monument to the cost of prejudice. Outside, the Georgia sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Maya's driver, an older gentleman named Robert, who'd been with her company from the beginning, stood beside a modest sedan. "Dr. Richardson." He smiled warmly. How was your flight? Educational, Maya said, climbing into the back seat. Very educational. As they drove away from the main terminal, Maya watched the planes take off and land. Metal birds defying gravity through the marriage of physics and faith. Each one represented thousands of hours of human ingenuity, countless people working together toward the simple miracle of flight. Robert, take me to the executive terminal. I want to see her. Robert's smile widened. She's beautiful, Dr. Richardson. Everything you dreamed. They drove past the commercial terminals, past cargo facilities to a separate area where private jets lined up like thoroughbreds in a stable. And there, gleaming in the dying light, was Maya's aircraft. The Gulfstream G700 had been magnificent before her modifications. Now retrofitted with Richardson Aerospace's revolutionary electric hybrid propulsion system, it was a masterpiece. Sleek, powerful, and bearing her company's logo, a rising phoenix rendered in gold and blue. Maya stepped out of the car and simply stared. 7 years of work, every penny she had, every moment of doubt and determination. It all came down to this: proof that her vision could become reality. Want to go inside? Robert asked gently. Maya nodded, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. The interior was everything she'd designed. Not ostentatious, but perfect. Cream leather seats, workspace with the latest technology, a small galley, sleeping quarters. Everything an aerospace CEO needed to run a global company from 45,000 feet. But it was more than that. It was vindication. Proof. Evidence that a little black girl from Southside Chicago, who'd been told she'd never amount to anything, had not only amounted to something, she had changed the world. Maya sank into one of the seats, running her hand over the armrest. Through the window, she could see the main terminal in the distance, where thousands of people moved through their lives, most of them unaware that the future of aviation was sitting on this tarmac. Her phone rang. The hospital. Ms. Richardson, this is Nurse Anderson. Your mother is asking for you. She's very insistent that you stay in Atlanta for your meeting. She says... The nurse's voice broke slightly. She says she didn't raise a quitter, and if you come back before that meeting, she'll haunt you. Maya laughed through her tears. That sounds like her. Tell her I love her, and I'll make her proud tomorrow. She already is, honey. She already is. After hanging up, Maya sat in the silence of her jet, letting herself feel everything she'd held back: the humiliation at the gate, the assault of Harrison's racism, the exhaustion of constantly proving her worth, the grief of her mother's dying, the pride of her achievements, the loneliness of success. It all washed over her in waves, and for the first time in days, maybe months, Maya let herself cry. Not the quiet, controlled tears she'd mastered, but deep, gulping sobs that came from somewhere primal. Robert, who'd been waiting outside, heard and discreetly moved further away. He'd been with Dr. Richardson long enough to know that powerful people rarely got to be human. And when they did, they deserved privacy. 20 minutes later, Maya emerged from the jet, her eyes red but her spine straight. She'd needed that release, needed to empty herself of the poison before tomorrow's meeting filled her with new challenges. Ready to go to the hotel? Robert asked. Actually, no. Maya pulled out her phone. There's something I need to do first. She made a call, spoke quietly for a few minutes, then hung up with a satisfied nod. Robert, can you take me back to the main terminal, Gate 47 area? Of course, Dr. Richardson. May I ask why? Maya's smile was enigmatic. Because Karen Phillips, the gate agent from this morning, just started her evening shift, and I believe she and I have some unfinished business. Robert raised his eyebrows but said nothing. He'd learned long ago that Dr. Richardson always had a plan. As they drove back toward the terminal, Maya composed an email on her phone. The subject line read, "Official complaint and opportunity for dialogue." She wasn't interested in getting Karen fired. She'd learned that revenge without education accomplished nothing, but she was very interested in ensuring that what happened to her never happened to anyone else at that gate. And Maya Richardson, CEO of a $22 billion company, had resources that most discrimination victims didn't have. She had platform. She had power. And she had something even more valuable, the lived experience to know exactly what needed to change. They pulled up to the departure area. Through the glass doors, Maya could see the familiar chaos of the airport, people rushing, stressed, trying to get somewhere. At Gate 47, visible through the terminal windows, Karen Phillips stood at her podium, processing passengers with the same indifferent efficiency. "Shall I come with you?" Robert asked. "No. This is something I need to do alone." Maya gathered her briefcase. "But stay close, this won't take long." She walked through the sliding doors, her heels clicking on the polished floor. Several people recognized her from earlier, their heads turning, whispers following in her wake. Word had spread quickly about who she was. Social media had seen to that. Videos of her confrontation with Harrison on the plane were already circulating, though she didn't know it yet. Maya approached Gate 47 slowly, deliberately. She wasn't here for confrontation. She was here for transformation. Karen looked up from her computer as Maya approached, and the color drained from her face. Recognition hit like lightning, not just of the woman she'd humiliated earlier, but of who that woman actually was. "Ms. Richardson," Karen stammered. I didn't know who I was," Maya finished gently. "Yes, I'm aware. Just like you didn't know who any of the other people you've treated with suspicion and disrespect over the years actually were." Around them, passengers slowed, sensing drama. A few held up phones, recording. Good, Maya thought. Let this be witnessed. Let it mean something. Karen Phillips stood frozen behind her podium, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped the edge of the counter. The professional mask she wore, the one that had protected her from truly seeing the people she processed daily, was cracking. "Dr. Richardson, I apologize. If I had known." "Stop." Maya's voice was firm, but not unkind. "Don't apologize for not knowing. Apologize for how you treated me when you thought I was nobody." Karen's eyes filled with tears. Around them, the gate area had gone silent. Passengers waiting for their flights watched with the intensity of people witnessing something significant, something that transcended the mundane rhythm of travel. "I don't understand," Karen whispered. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand something." Maya set her briefcase down carefully. "This morning, you looked at me and made assumptions. You saw my skin color, my tired clothes, my exhaustion, and you decided I didn't belong in first class. You decided I was probably trying to cheat the system. You called security on me not because I was disruptive, but because I had the audacity to insist on being treated fairly." Karen's face crumpled. "I was just doing my job." "No." Maya shook her head. "You were doing what you've been conditioned to do, what this society has taught all of us to do, to see certain people as suspicious, as less than, as not belonging. And I'm not here to destroy you for it, Karen. I'm here to ask you to do better." A woman in line spoke up, her voice carrying. "I was here this morning, I saw everything. You were completely out of line." Others nodded, murmuring agreement. Karen looked around at the circle of witnesses, her shame now public, inescapable. "I have children," Karen said suddenly, desperately. "I can't lose this job. I'm a single mother. I'm not trying to get you fired." Maya's voice softened. "But I am filing a formal complaint with the airline. Not because I want punishment, but because I want training. Better training. Anti-bias training. For you. For every gate agent. For every employee who interacts with the public." She pulled a card from her briefcase and handed it to Karen. "This is the contact information for Dr. Elaine Morrison. She runs diversity and inclusion training programs. I'm personally funding a comprehensive program for this airport's staff. You're going to be the first participant." Karen took the card with shaking hands, staring at it as if it were a life raft. "Why would you do that? Why would you help me after what I did?" "Because," Maya said, her voice carrying to everyone in the gate area, "transformation requires education, not just condemnation. Because my mother raised me to believe that people can change if given the tools and opportunity. And because every person you interact with after this training deserves better than what you gave me today. Maya picked up her briefcase. I'll be honest with you, Karen. What happened this morning hurt. It hurt not because it was new, I've experienced it 1,000 times before. It hurt because I'm tired. Tired of having to prove I belong. Tired of being suspected instead of respected. Tired of working twice as hard for half the recognition. She paused, her voice thickening with emotion. My mother is dying. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I spent last night holding her hand in the hospital, and this morning she made me leave her bedside to come to Atlanta for the most important meeting of my career. And after all that, after everything I've accomplished and everything I've sacrificed, I still had to stand at your podium and beg to be treated like a human being. Karen was openly crying now. Several passengers in the area were crying too, moved by the raw honesty of Maya's words. I'm so sorry, Karen said, and this time it sounded different. Not a reflexive apology designed to escape consequences, but a genuine expression of remorse. I'm so sorry. Maya nodded slowly. I accept your apology. Now make it mean something. Take the training, learn, grow, and the next time someone like me stands at your podium, see them. Really see them. Not their skin color, not their clothes, not your assumptions. See their humanity. She turned to address the crowd that had gathered. This isn't just about one gate agent or one incident. This is about a system that teaches us to devalue certain people from birth. A system where my accomplishments mean nothing if I'm not wearing the right clothes or flying at the right time or looking the right way. We all participate in that system. We all have to do better. An older black woman in the crowd called out, "Thank you. Thank you for saying what so many of us have felt." Others applauded. Not everyone. Some looked uncomfortable, challenged. But that was the point. Comfort wasn't where change happened. Maya gave Karen one last look. I'll be checking on your progress. Dr. Morrison will report back to me. I hope 6 months from now we can have a very different conversation. As Maya walked away, a supervisor had appeared, clearly having been summoned by someone. Maya spent 20 minutes in a private office, formally documenting everything that had happened, providing the names of witnesses, and outlining her expectations for institutional change. The airline manager, a woman named Susan Torres, listened with growing horror. Dr. Richardson, on behalf of the airline, I am deeply sorry. This is unacceptable. What's unacceptable? Maya replied, is that it keeps happening. Not just here, everywhere. I want quarterly reports on your anti-bias training implementation. I want to see curriculum. I want measurable outcomes. And I want other airlines to learn from what you're doing. Susan nodded vigorously. Whatever you need, we'll make this right. Make it right for everyone who comes after me, Maya said. That's all I ask. By the time Maya left the terminal, night had fully fallen. Robert was waiting patiently by the car, and he opened the door for her with a knowing smile. How did it go? Better than expected. Maya settled into the seat, exhausted but satisfied. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not seek revenge, but demand transformation. At the hotel, Maya barely had the energy to shower before collapsing into bed. But sleep wouldn't come. Her mind raced with tomorrow's presentation, her mother's condition, the day's events. Finally, at midnight, she called the hospital. She's sleeping, the nurse told her, but peacefully. She asked about you earlier, wanted to know if you showed them all what you're made of. Maya smiled through tears. Tell her I'm trying, Mama. I'm trying. The next morning arrived too quickly. Maya dressed in her power suit, a custom-tailored navy ensemble that cost more than some people's monthly rent. She looked at herself in the mirror and saw her mother's eyes staring back, full of strength and determination. The FAA meeting was held in a sleek conference room downtown. Present were representatives from the Federal Aviation Administration, the Department of Transportation, environmental agencies, and several major airlines. These were the gatekeepers of American aviation, The people who would decide whether Richardson Aerospace's technology would become the future or remain an expensive dream. Maya entered the room with her head high and her presentation loaded. She had given this pitch 100 times in practice, but never with so much writing on it. "Gentlemen, ladies," she began, and then paused. The word felt wrong somehow, too formal, too distant after yesterday's lessons. She started again. "Friends," she said, her voice warm, "I'm here to show you not just a technology but a transformation. A way to honor our planet while advancing our civilization. A way to make flight accessible and sustainable for generations to come." For the next 2 hours, Maya presented her life's work. The electric hybrid propulsion system that could reduce emissions by 90%. The cost savings that would democratize regional air travel. The safety features that exceeded current standards. The scalability that could revolutionize not just American aviation, but global transportation. She showed videos of test flights, data from thousands of hours of simulation, testimonials from pilots, environmental impact studies, economic projections, everything a skeptical audience needed to see. But halfway through, she did something unexpected. She paused her presentation and spoke from the heart. "Yesterday," she said, "I was humiliated at an airport gate. A gate agent looked at me and decided I didn't belong in first class. A fellow passenger assumed I must have cheated my way onto the plane. And for a moment I questioned whether all of this," she gestured at the presentation, "was worth it. Whether anything I accomplish will ever be enough to overcome the assumptions people make about who I am and what I deserve." The room was utterly silent. But then I remembered why I started this company. Not to prove anything to people who doubt me, but to create something bigger than my own validation. To build a future where the brilliant little black girl from Southside Chicago can look up at the sky and see not barriers, but possibilities. She advanced to the next slide, a photo of her first prototype built in her mother's garage with borrowed tools and unshakable faith. "This technology represents 7 years of work, every dollar I had, and more setbacks than I can count. But it also represents something more important. Proof that innovation doesn't require Ivy League pedigrees or venture capital connections. It requires vision, perseverance, and the audacity to believe you belong at the table even when everyone tells you to stay in the kitchen." When she finished, the room erupted in questions. Technical, financial, logistical. Maya answered every single one with precision and confidence. This was her element. This was where her expertise couldn't be doubted or dismissed. Finally, after 3 hours, the lead FAA representative stood. "Dr. Richardson, I think I speak for everyone here when I say that your presentation has been extraordinary. We'll need to review everything with our technical teams, but I can tell you unofficially, this is exactly the kind of innovation American aviation needs." Maya felt her knees go weak with relief, but she kept her composure. "Thank you. I look forward to working with all of you." As the meeting broke up, several attendees approached her privately. One airline CEO pulled her aside. "Dr. Richardson, I saw the video. From yesterday, the incident at the gate." Maya tensed. Of course it had gone viral. Nothing stayed private anymore. "I want you to know," the CEO continued, "that we're implementing immediate changes to our training protocols. What happened to you was unacceptable, and it's forced us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our industry." Another executive joined them. "My daughter sent me your video last night. She's 15, black, interested in engineering. She told me, 'Dad, if Dr. Richardson can survive that and still show up to change the world, I can survive AP Physics.' You're inspiring people, Dr. Richardson. More than you know." By the time Maya left the building, she had preliminary agreements from 3 major airlines, a commitment from the FAA to fast-track certification, and the private phone numbers of 6 industry leaders who wanted to invest in Richardson Aerospace's future. The sun was setting over Atlanta as Maya made her way back to the executive terminal. Robert drove in comfortable silence, sensing that she needed space to process everything that had happened. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing, news outlets requesting interviews, colleagues congratulating her on the FAA meeting, and messages from strangers who'd seen the viral video and wanted to share their own stories of discrimination and survival. But Maya ignored them all. There was only one call she needed to make, and she waited until Robert pulled up to the private terminal before dialing the hospital. Northwestern Memorial, ICU. This is Maya Richardson. I'm calling about my mother, Dorothy Richardson. A pause. Then a different voice came on the line. Dr. Patel, her mother's oncologist. Ms. Richardson, your mother has been asking for you all day. Her vitals they've stabilized somewhat. It's almost as if she's willing herself to hold on until she knows you're coming home. Maya's voice broke. Tell her I'm on my way. Tell her I did it, Dr. Patel. Tell her I made her proud. She already knows, Ms. Richardson. Trust me. She already knows. Maya ended the call and sat for a moment in the car, letting the weight of the last 48 hours settle on her shoulders. Then she straightened her spine, gathered her briefcase, and stepped out into the warm Georgia evening. The executive terminal was quiet, exclusive, a world away from the chaos of commercial aviation. But as Maya walked through, she found herself missing the energy of the main terminal, the humanity of it, the messy, complicated, beautiful reality of people from all walks of life trying to reach their destinations. James, the young man from yesterday, was waiting by the entrance to the tarmac. His face lit up when he saw her. Dr. Richardson, everything's ready for you. Your jet has been fueled, pre-flight completed. Weather looks perfect for your flight to Chicago. He paused, then added shyly, I saw what happened yesterday. What you did at Gate 47. My mama cried when she watched it. She said you did what she's wanted to do her whole life. Stand up and demand to be seen. Maya squeezed his arm gently. Tell your mama that she's seen James. Tell her I see her. We all do. As she walked across the tarmac, her heels clicking on the asphalt, Maya saw her jet waiting like a faithful friend. The Richardson Aerospace logo gleamed in the dying light. That phoenix rising, wings spread, carrying the future on its back. Captain Jennifer Walsh stood at the base of the air stairs, a broad smile on her face. She was one of the first female pilots Maya had hired, a woman who'd fought her own battles against an industry that told her women didn't belong in cockpits. Welcome aboard, Dr. Richardson. Your chariot awaits. Maya laughed. How's she handling, Jen? Like a dream. The electric hybrid system is even smoother than the simulations predicted. We're making history with every flight. Jen's expression turned serious. I saw the video too. What you did, standing up like that, refusing to be invisible. You gave voice to every woman, every person of color, every other who's ever been told they don't belong in spaces they've earned the right to occupy. I just got tired of being quiet, Maya said softly. Sometimes that's when the most important words get spoken. The interior of the jet was exactly as Maya had left it yesterday. Perfect, pristine, a testament to what vision and determination could build. But today, it felt different. Today it felt less like an achievement to be admired, and more like a tool to be used. A platform to stand on. A voice amplified. Maya settled into her seat as Jen and the co-pilot completed their final checks. Through the window, she could see the Atlanta skyline, the city where so much of her life had changed in just 48 hours. Her phone buzzed. A message from Patricia, the flight attendant from yesterday's commercial flight. Dr. Richardson, I gave Marcus your email. He wrote you a 10-page letter, says he wants to work for Richardson Aerospace someday. Thank you for seeing him when the world tells him he's invisible. Maya typed back quickly. Tell Marcus his application is already approved. When he graduates, he has a job waiting. We need minds like his. The engines hummed to life, quieter than traditional jets, cleaner, more efficient. The future, quite literally, beneath her wings. As they taxied toward the runway, Maya noticed a small crowd gathered by the terminal windows. Airport employees, pilots, ground crew. As her jet passed, they waved. Some held signs. One read, "Thank you for using your voice." Another, "You belong everywhere." Maya pressed her hand against the window, a silent acknowledgement of their support, their solidarity. She wasn't alone in this fight. She'd never been alone. She just needed to remember that her story was part of a much larger narrative, one written in the collective strength of everyone who'd ever been told they were too much, or not enough. The jet lifted smoothly into the sky, Atlanta falling away beneath them. Maya watched the city lights begin to twinkle as darkness fell, each one representing a life, a story, a person fighting their own battles for dignity and respect. At cruising altitude, Maya opened her laptop. She had an email to write, to Marcus, Patricia's son, but also to every young person who'd reached out after seeing the video, sharing their own dreams and doubts. She wrote, "To everyone who has ever felt invisible, unworthy, or unwelcome in spaces you've earned the right to occupy, your worth is not determined by others' ability to see it. Your value doesn't decrease because someone fails to recognize it. You belong not because you've proven yourself to doubters, but because you exist, because you dare, because you dream. I didn't build a billion-dollar company to prove I deserved respect. I built it because I loved aviation, believed in innovation, and refused to let others' limitations become my own. The gate agent who humiliated me didn't know who I was. But here's the truth. It shouldn't have mattered. I deserved respect as a human being, not as a CEO. You deserve respect as a human being, not because of your achievements or credentials. Stand tall, speak truth, demand dignity, not with hatred or vengeance, but with the unshakable knowledge that you are worthy simply because you are. And when the world tries to make you small, remember, phoenixes don't rise from ashes by permission. They rise because fire cannot destroy what was meant to soar. Keep flying. Dr. Maya Richardson." She sent the email to her assistant with instructions to post it publicly. Let it reach whoever needed to hear it. 3 hours later, the Chicago skyline appeared through the darkness, familiar and welcoming. Maya's heart ached with anticipation and dread. Her mother was waiting. How much longer would she wait? They landed smoothly at a private airfield outside the city. Maya's assistant, Carlos, was waiting with a car, engine running, ready to rush her to the hospital. "The contracts?" Maya asked as she hurried to the car. "All finalized. The FAA fast-tracked everything. It's official, Dr. Richardson. Richardson Aerospace is now the primary supplier for next-generation electric aviation in the United States." Carlos grinned. "You did it. You actually did it." "We did it," Maya corrected. "None of this happens without the team." The drive to Northwestern Memorial Hospital took 23 minutes through light traffic. Every minute felt like an hour. Maya clutched her phone, checking for updates, praying she wasn't too late. When she burst through the ICU doors, still in her power suit, still carrying her briefcase, the nurses recognized her immediately. "Room 412, the charge nurse said. "She's been asking for you, fighting to stay awake until you got here." Maya ran, her heels echoing down the sterile hallway, until she reached her mother's room. Dorothy Richardson lay in the hospital bed, diminished by illness but not defeated. Her eyes, though tired, were bright with intelligence and love. When she saw Maya, her face transformed. "Baby girl," she whispered. "Tell Mama everything." Maya collapsed into the chair beside the bed, taking her mother's frail hand in both of hers. And she told her everything. The humiliation at the gate, Harrison's racism on the plane, the revelation of who she was, the confrontation with Karen, the FAA meeting, the contract signed, the future secured. Dorothy listened, tears streaming down her cheeks, occasionally squeezing Maya's hand with surprising strength. "Mama, I did it," Maya finished. "Everything we dreamed about in that garage 20 years ago. Everything you sacrificed for, it's real, it's happening." "I always knew it would," Dorothy said. "But baby, that's not what makes me proud." Maya looked up, confused. "The business, the money, the success, that's all fine. But what makes me proud is that you stood up at that gate, that you refused to be invisible, that you demanded dignity." Dorothy's eyes blazed with fierce love. You could have walked away, baby. Could have let it go. But you stood your ground. You spoke truth and you did it with grace. I was scared, Mama. Scared and angry and so tired. I know, baby. Being strong doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do what's right even when you're terrified. Dorothy pulled Maya closer. You listen to me now. You've built something bigger than airplanes. You've built a legacy of dignity. Every person who saw that video, who heard your words, who watched you demand respect, they got a little braver. You lit a fire, Maya, and fire spreads. Maya laid her head on her mother's hand, letting the tears flow freely. I don't want to do this without you, Mama. I don't know how. You do it the same way you've done everything else. One step at a time. One day at a time. And you remember that I'm always with you. Dorothy touched Maya's cheek. Every time you stand up for someone who can't stand up for themselves. Every time you speak truth to power. Every time you refuse to be made small. That's me, baby. That's us. That's every ancestor who survived so you could soar. They sat in silence for a long time, mother and daughter, bound by love stronger than any adversity they'd faced. Finally, Dorothy spoke again, her voice growing weaker. Tell me about your jet. I want to hear about my baby flying in her own plane. Maya smiled through her tears and described every detail. The smooth takeoff, the quiet engines, the view of Atlanta from above, the sense of absolute freedom. That's my girl, Dorothy whispered, flying high, just like I always knew you would. Dorothy Richardson passed away peacefully 3 days later, with Maya holding her hand, singing the old hymns they used to sing together in their tiny South Side apartment. The funeral was attended by hundreds, family, friends, Richardson Aerospace employees, and strangers who'd been touched by Maya's story and wanted to pay respects to the woman who'd raised such a warrior. At the service, Maya stood before the gathered crowd and spoke. My mother cleaned houses so I could go to college. She worked double shifts so I could pursue my dreams. She endured indignities and discrimination with grace, teaching me that dignity isn't given, it's claimed. It's embodied. It's lived. She didn't live to see the full impact of Richardson Aerospace, but she lived long enough to know that her sacrifices mattered, that her daughter would carry forward not just her name, but her values, her unshakable belief that every human being deserves respect. That success means nothing if we don't use it to lift others. That true power lies not in domination, but in transformation. Mama, you taught me to fly long before I ever designed an aircraft. You showed me that rising above doesn't mean leaving others behind. It means reaching back to pull them up beside you. 6 months later, the Richardson Foundation for Aviation Education was officially launched, funded by a $1 billion endowment. Its mission? To provide scholarships, training, and support for underrepresented minorities in aerospace engineering. The first scholarship recipient was Marcus Johnson, Patricia's son, who would go on to design revolutionary safety systems for commercial aircraft. The second was James, the young airport worker who'd recognized Maya that day in Atlanta. He'd always dreamed of becoming an engineer but couldn't afford college. There were 100 more, then 1,000, each one a seed planted, a future changed, a legacy extended. Karen Phillips completed her anti-bias training and became one of its most passionate advocates. She now travels to airports across the country, sharing her story of transformation and teaching other gate agents to see the humanity in every passenger. Thomas Harrison reached out to Maya 8 months after that fateful flight. He didn't ask for forgiveness or offer excuses. He simply said, "You changed me. I'm working to be better. Thank you for not giving up on my capacity to change." Maya's viral video spawned a movement. See Your Dignity became a rallying cry for people demanding respect in everyday interactions. Millions shared stories of discrimination and survival. More importantly, millions pledged to do better, to see better, to be better. Richardson Aerospace grew beyond anyone's projections. Within 5 years, electric hybrid aircraft became the standard for regional travel. Carbon emissions from aviation dropped dramatically. The technology that began in a Southside Chicago garage revolutionized an industry. But Maya's greatest legacy wasn't measured in patents or profits. It was measured in the countless people who found their courage after watching a tired black woman refuse to be invisible at an airport gate. It was measured in the children who saw themselves in her story and dared to dream bigger. It was measured in the gate agents, flight attendants, and airline executives who implemented real change because one woman demanded it. It was measured in every person who stood up for their dignity after being inspired by someone who stood up for hers. 10 years after that day at O'Hare, Maya stood at the dedication ceremony for the Dorothy Richardson Terminal at Chicago's airport, a state-of-the-art facility designed with accessibility, dignity, and respect at its core. Every gate agent had completed comprehensive anti-bias training. Every policy had been reviewed through an equity lens. Every design choice considered the humanity of travelers. On the wall near the entrance hung a photograph, Dorothy Richardson standing in front of that original garage, her hand on young Maya's shoulder, both of them looking toward the sky with identical expressions of hope and determination. Beneath it, a plaque read, "Dignity is not negotiable. Respect is not earned, it is owed." This terminal stands as a reminder that every person who passes through these gates deserves to be seen, valued, and treated with humanity. May we never forget that transformation begins when one person has the courage to say, "I belong here, and I will not be made invisible." As Maya stood before that photograph, she felt her mother's presence like a warm embrace. She heard her voice, "You did good, baby. You did real good." And Maya whispered back, "We did it together, Mama. We've always done it together." A young black girl, maybe 7 years old, tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Are you Dr. Richardson, the lady who makes the flying machines?" Maya knelt down to the child's level. "I am. What's your name?" "Destiny. My teacher says you're a hero." "Your teacher is very kind, but I'm not a hero, Destiny. I'm just someone who refused to be invisible. And you know what? You don't have to be invisible either. Whatever you dream of becoming, engineer, pilot, doctor, teacher, anything, you remember that you belong there. You always belonged there." Destiny's eyes grew wide. "Really? Really?" Maya touched the child's shoulder, passing on the blessing her mother had given her. "The world might try to make you small, don't let it. You were born to soar." As Destiny ran back to her mother, Maya stood and looked out the terminal windows at the planes taking off and landing, each one carrying hundreds of stories, hundreds of people trying to reach their destinations. She thought about Karen, now teaching others about dignity. She thought about Harrison doing the hard work of unlearning hatred. She thought about Marcus, designing the future of aviation. She thought about Patricia, whose faith in her son had been rewarded. She thought about every person who'd been inspired to stand up, speak out, and demand the respect they'd always deserved. But mostly, she thought about her mother, about sacrifices made, about dreams deferred but never abandoned, about love that transcends death and lives on in every act of courage, every demand for justice, every refusal to be diminished. Maya's phone buzzed. Her assistant, "Dr. Richardson, your jet is ready for the Shanghai conference. ETA to departure, 30 minutes. Maya smiled. There was work to do, dreams to build, a future to create. And now, finally, she was doing it not just for herself, but for everyone who'd ever been told they didn't belong. She walked through the Dorothy Richardson terminal with her head high, her spine straight, her heart full. Travelers recognized her, waved, thanked her. She acknowledged each one, seeing them, really seeing them, the way she'd always wanted to be seen. Outside on the tarmac, her jet waited, that phoenix in gold and blue, ready to carry her toward whatever challenges and triumphs lay ahead. Maya boarded, settled into her seat, and looked out the window one last time at the terminal bearing her mother's name. "Thank you, Mama," she whispered, "for teaching me that dignity isn't a luxury. It's a birthright. For showing me that transformation is always possible. For believing I could fly before I ever left the ground." The engines hummed to life, and Dr. Maya Richardson, daughter of Dorothy, descendant of survivors, bearer of dreams, lifted into the sky. Rising, always rising, not because the world gave her permission, but because phoenixes were born to soar. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to never miss stories of courage and justice. Like if you believe dignity matters. Share to inspire someone who needs hope today. Your voice counts.